All right, so we're just gonna keep practicing this graphing, identifying the key features of our vertex form. So hopefully this kind of is already feeling familiar. We've talked about this several examples in the last couple videos. So it's helpful to recognize when you have vertex form. Vertex form always is gonna have, something like x plus 1 with a squared plus a number on the end. If it just had an x squared, that just meant the x value of your vertex was a 0. So anyway, just get used to the structure of vertex form. It just helps us recognize it, which makes graphing a little bit easier. Okay, so when you have vertex form, why don't we identify the vertex? By the way, have I said in a video yet, when I identify vertex, I put a V and then a parentheses, and that's my way of saying that this ordered pair is the vertex. I'm sure you guys have caught on, but I don't know if I actually said it. So we go, the x has a plus 1 with it, which means tricky. It actually went to the left one, so our vertex is at -1. We've got a plus 5 on the end, so it's going to go up 5 units. So vertex is at -1, 5. That means our axis of symmetry is at x equals -1. Remember, it's going to match our h value of our vertex. And then we want to talk about our a value. The a value is that number in front of the parentheses, -2. This means our graph is going to open down, and our graphing pattern, we take the -2 times 135, we get -2, -6, -10. Okay, so let's graph this. Vertex is at -1, 5. We can do our graphing pattern next, down 2 because it's a -2 to the right 1, down 6 to the right 1, and then down 10 to the right 1 goes off the graph. Now let's get the reflected points on the other side of where that axis of symmetry is. So down 2 to the left 1, down 6 to the left 1. We'll go ahead and sketch in our graph, our parabola. Why don't we draw in, I think we've been doing it, but let's just make a note to make sure we're drawing in our axis of symmetry. Might be good to even label it so we get used to labeling. That's a vertical line, so it's x equals -1. I know that's what we've been writing over here, but I just can't write the axis of symmetry is -1 because we have to say x equals. It actually is a vertical line. One thing to note, when your a value, if you think about the absolute value of -2, that's a number greater than 1, so this is going to be a vertical stretch. It's going to narrow your graph from the parent function. Okay, let's just try a couple more. Make sure we have this down. G of x, we will identify the vertex first. So the vertex, we have an x -2, so +2, a plus 1 on the end, so our vertex is at 2, 1. Axis of symmetry is at x equals 2. And then our a value is -3. So our graphing pattern, we take that -3 times the 135. So we have a -3, -9, -15 pattern. All right, so we go to first our vertex, over 2, up 1. We do our graphing pattern, down 3 to the right 1, down 9 to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's off the graph. We're not going to fit that in. So we'll just go down 3 to the left 1. And then when we draw on this parabola, we're going to make sure that we don't cross the next line because we know that's heading way down there to where 9 units down would be. And then our axis of symmetry. We're going to draw this in. Let's go ahead and label that as x equals 2. And because our a value was a -3, that is going to stretch your graph vertically, which means it will narrow your graph. All right, last one, our vertex. We look inside the parentheses with the x. We have an x plus 1, so the vertex is at -1. A -4 on the end stays as a -4. So our vertex has shifted to the left 1 and down 4. Axis of symmetry is at x equals whatever the x coordinate of your vertex is, so x equals -1. And then our a value, well, our a value is the number in front of the parentheses. Remember, if there's nothing there, then your A value is 1, which means we default to just our 1, 3, 5 graphing pattern. All right, vertex, -1, -4. Now our 1, 3, 5 pattern, up 1 to the right 1, up 3 to the right 1, up 5 to the right 1. Let's get our points on the other side. And I say on the other side, I'm talking about on the other side of your axis of symmetry. These points are all symmetrical across that symmetry line. So that's why we like to draw it in. It's a very important part of what we're talking about here. And that is that x equals -1. There, look how quickly we just graphed 3 functions in vertex form.